All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining our webinar today with School District of Mondovi. I'm Savannah Villoon and I'm the event manager here at Lock in Charge. Our speaker today is Brad Elkins, and he's the IT director at School District of Mondovi in Wisconsin. During the webinar, feel free to add any questions to the chat, but we'll also have time at the end for questions. And with that, I will turn it over to Brad.
Hello, like Savannah said, thank you. I am the IT director at the District of Mondovi. I've been here since 2011, so a few years. And we have about 950 students K-12. We're one big campus, as you can see here. We got about 113 FTEs. We have about 1,000 Chromebooks, 200 Windows devices, around 50 iPads that are on like the special ed department. And then I am a one-man IT shop. So I manage everything. I like to say if it plugs into a wall, it's mine. So I'm always looking for something that will simplify my life. And this is one thing that I definitely found. So a brief history of our technology through the district, our mobile technology. We had some carts on laptops, and then we bought some Chromebooks for our 3rd through 5th grade. We purchased 100 Chromebooks for state testing. We had all XP desktops that we thought were going to work, and turns out they didn't, and the laptop carts wouldn't hold the charge. So that was our big first like foray into Chromebooks. Then we purchased another cart for our ag department, and then the next year we purchased 650 Chromebooks and carts for our core classes through middle school, high school. And we had about 30 or so Chromebooks, however many they needed in their rooms on each cart. Next year, we finished out middle school, high school, all the specialists got Chromebooks, and a couple of the elementary classrooms that still needed Chromebooks got those. So we were one-to-one K-12 running smoothly for a couple of years, and then 2020 and COVID happened and everything changed. And so our Chromebooks went home for the first time when we shut down in 2020. And I realized when we got them back that we were going to never use the carts again. So when we initially sent them out, I have everything tracked on an inventory spreadsheet. Each teacher has a tab with their Chromebooks, and it's been always super easy for me to manage, but once people started moving them around, it became a lot harder to manage. So I shared that spreadsheet with each teacher. They sent their Chromebooks home based off of homerooms, and they were supposed to keep track of it. We got them back in the summer, and we went through, found what was missing and whatnot. And once I realized that they're going to keep walking around with them, I had to come up with a better solution for managing them. And so I assigned every kid a Chromebook, tracked it all in spreadsheet again the next year, and we had about 10 to 15 Chromebooks per cart left in each classroom. And I figured the teachers could manage their own carts. I didn't have a place to store all the extra Chromebooks. And so the teachers didn't manage their carts, then kids just kind of grabbed all willy-nilly, and it just was utter chaos. And again, collecting that year, I thought teachers would be able to collect, they have carts, they have homerooms, I just give them the Chromebook. But again, some of the teachers kept track, some didn't, and it just was a nightmare. So the next year we had them go to the library for replacement. So each teacher had 2 Chromebooks in their cart. I figured they have to be able to keep track of 2 Chromebooks, right? And then if a student needed a device swapped, they would go to the library. The librarian would take care of it. Again, it was an utter nightmare. We had things not being tracked. She would just write it down on a notebook instead of tracking it online in our spreadsheet. And so I would get a random page of notes in my mailbox every few weeks and try to go figure that out. It was a nightmare. So with that, our Chromebooks are coming up on 5 years old. We're going to be replacing the fleet. And so I had to find a better solution. And so I had heard of another district using a fuel tower in their cafeteria for students to charge their devices at lunch and different breaks. And I was hoping to find a way to automate it. So I set up a call with Lock in Charge, and that is exactly what the fuel tower is designed to do, is to allow people to go and just swap devices as needed. And it sounded perfect. So they set me up with a demo. I they shipped me out a device for free, and I was playing with it for a couple of weeks, showed it to the principal and the superintendent, and they thought it was going to work out really well. So we purchased the device that they sent me, and I kind of started figuring out what I was actually going to do with it. So my initial plan was students fill out a Google form, I get notified, and then I send a student an access code for a bay, and they go to the locker and they swap it. And leave theirs for me to go take a look at when I can get to it. This really wasn't going to work out. Students would have to wait for a code, losing out on instructional time, which is what we were trying to avoid anyway. And then also I would have to interact with every single transaction, defeating the purpose of an automated system. So what we ended up going with is I imported all of my students through a CSV to as users. They're using their student ID as like their number to access the bays, and they can access any bay. So then it integrates nicely with webhooks. So I'm using Zapier to get notified when a bay is opened, and then the student fills out the Google form so that I know what's actually wrong with their Chromebook. Really, they only need to fill it out if there's something damaged with it. If it's just charging, or if it's they forgot it, I don't have to go interact with it. It's just all on them. So the dean of students and the principal track behavior issues and stuff like that for habitual users. I only care about damaged Chromebooks. I added each bay to my asset management software so that I could scan a spare Chromebook into the bay, and I would know exactly where each device is, who has it. Makes it super efficient for assigning devices, especially like if I have to send one in for repair, then they will keep that spare until their device is back, and then I just put a different spare in their vacated bay. So I spray painted all of my Chromebooks like this that I have for spares, because we sold all of our Chromebooks back to the district last year. And so we would have students bringing in their personal Chromebook that looks just like the ones we had before, and trying to get through our security policies and stuff like that. So we spray painted all of our spare ones, and now students are only allowed their Dells or the blue painted Chromebooks in classes. Each bay has an outlet and a USB port and a light, so it illuminates it, sees what you're doing. I attached a charger to the wall, and you can actually, there's security like holes that you could zip tie it to, or you could even put it in the back of the bay. We don't really have that issue of any tampering or anything like that. So it works out for us, but there's definitely other ways to do it as well. And if you're charging iPads or phones, you can use the USB port as well on there. So when you come into the dashboard, each fuel tower, you get access to the lock and charge dashboard, I call it. I'm not sure what they call it. And so if you have multiple lockers, they show up here. You can group them however you want. So if you have like a middle school policy and a high school policy, you would create a folder for each, and it makes it easy to apply different settings for different groups. We just have the one, so we only have one group, but it definitely is very easy to change settings however you need. So when you click on the locker, then it's going to bring you to an overview. And so you can see the status of each bay that you have in that locker at a glance, which is really handy. So I know I have 2 greens available. So green is an available Chromebook. Red means the door is open, so somebody's either there or they didn't shut the door. Black or no light means that the bay is offline, so I took it offline, or somebody like tried to jam it open, in which case it takes itself offline. And then white means that it's reserved. So you can click on in the settings. I put it on our guest Wi-Fi. It's then it's on its own VLAN. It's all segregated from my network, and able to access the internet easily. I didn't open any ports or anything, so it was a super easy setup. There's also a built-in network jack, so if you have an easily accessible data line, you can plug it in. I didn't, so it just worked out this way that has Wi-Fi. I have mine in managed mode, but there's also a public mode, so that you could just walk up to the bay or walk up to the locker, put in a code, and it would then assign it to the bay you want, and only you can access it. So if you have it in a common area or a lobby at a school, the public can charge devices or just have a place to store valuables. or you can put it in a cafeteria, have students be able to charge there, whatever you want to do with it. It's very versatile, which is nice. And then there's also a curfew, which I like. So I set mine to like 7:30 to 3:45. It's accessible. So that way, if students are in the building before or after school, they don't need a Chromebook like from the locker. I didn't want to deal with people grabbing them when they shouldn't and stuff like that. So set a curfew however you want. Also on the weekends, because we are all one big school. Like if there's something happening in the gym, there's access through all the hallways. And I didn't want to have to try to track down who did what over the weekend. So I just set a curfew. Nobody can access it other than Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 3:45, something like that. So when you click on a bay, you're able to assign credentials. So if you wanted to put something in it for somebody to pick up, if you aren't going to be here, I've done that a couple of times where like a sub needs to grab something, I could just assign them a bay, and then they can get it out of there. I don't have to interact. You can unlock a bay remotely for whatever reason if you want to. I've had a couple of students who didn't know how to use the locker come find me. I'm like, well, I'll unlock this bay. It'll be open when you get there, and then they don't have to deal with the numbers. That's been handy for a couple of special ed students who just had a hard time with it. And then you can also take the bay offline for whatever reason you would need to. And then you also can assign your users per bay that way. So for the way that we have it set up, a student goes and puts in their student ID number. It then turns the bay white and it assigns them to the bay, gives you a date and time. You're able to remove them. So if I took their Chromebook out for repair, put a different spare in there, I'll remove them. If I put their Chromebook back, they stay once they open the bay again, or if they're just charging their Chromebook, once they open the bay again, it goes back to available and green, and everything's all hunky-dory. So from here, I imported all of my users into, or all my students into the users, and then I grouped them by grade because I didn't know what we were going to do if each for like a couple of grades have access to a bay or what. So this made it really easy for me to assign students to the bays. Right now, all of the grades have access to all the bays, but if I had a 15 bay, for example, I would probably do like middle school students to 1/3 of it and high school students to 1/3 of it, and then reserve 5 bays for something else. So that's just easy to do with a CSV upload from the student management system. So that was really easy. There's event logs, so we can easily see who's done what. You can see a couple of students who opened the bays. You can see if somebody put the wrong code in multiple times, different things like that. So it's just a handy place to see different event logs, match up with to make sure that everything lines up with times through the Google Sheets and stuff like that. There's handy reports. So I use the current user reservations and the station usage by user quite a bit. We would basically at the end of the day, 10-15 minutes before the bell rang, the dean of students or I would pull up the current users, and anybody who's just charging their Chromebook, they get an email sent saying, hey, go return your spare so that it's available for the next day for somebody else, because they don't get to keep it if they're just charging it, and their Chromebook definitely should be charged by the end of the day. And then I use the station usage by user. Again, the dean of students and I, we can set whatever time frame we want in it. So like for the last week, for the last month, last couple of days, it'll easily show you who's done what. And you can see who's used the locker the most. I don't care, but they like to know for behavioral issues. If a kid's using it every day, where'd your Chromebook go, that sort of thing. So that's all on them to do. So those are the couple of reports we use quite a bit. So from there, we can tie it to webhooks through the integration section here. So anything that can grab a webhook, you can use. I know the Google Developer Council, you can do it, but Zapier was like $200 for the year for me, and it was super easy to set up. So it was very, very worth it for me. So you get your hook from Zapier or whatever you're using, and then you go back to the dashboard. You can put your URL into that section. They also integrate with other management systems or ticketing systems, so that when a student fills out a ticket, then it can do some automation that way. I don't have a ticketing system, but I do know they integrate with some. I'm sure Josh will talk about that later. And then URL is imported in, and you can put whatever you want to be notified by. I only care when a bay is reserved, and so that's the email I get, but here's all the options that you have. And it's, again, super simple to set up. Then I linked it to a Gmail. I created what it looks like. So you have a nice, easy who opened which locker bay, and then in the body, the timestamp and the date and the user. So this is what actually gets emailed to me, the dean of students and the principal. It's Chromebook, locker, bay, whatever, accessed by student. And then inside the body, you can see the timestamp, the bay that was opened, and the user. So it's just all the pertinent information you would need for who opened the locker. And most of these I haven't cared about because there are a lot of battery charging and forgot Chromebooks at home. But then if a student did forget or did have an issue with their device, then I can go and get it at some point and put a different spare in there and fix their device for them. So here's just a few things that I would have done differently. I would have bought the 15 bay, as I said before, instead of the 5. I just didn't know what we were going to need, and we had the 5 already, so like we'll start with this. And then we would have made the base stay online from the beginning. So right away, I had them go offline, and students would accidentally shut the door before they would put their Chromebook in, or there was no point for it to go offline because they're the only ones who can access the bays anyway once they assign themselves to it. So I just changed that. And then I would have not assumed that students and teachers could follow directions. I made documentation with screenshots and all of this, put it by the table. I emailed it to them all, and they still had questions. So then I ended up making a video, which you'll see at the end here, of how to use the locker, which helped a lot. And then I should have created a generic notification email address in Zapier. That way the emails aren't coming from me, they're coming from Chromebook Locker at Mondovi. And then we did make a change in the middle of the year that if a student is just charging their battery and they don't return it at the end of the day, either I or the dean of students will go and take them out of there. And that way the student has to get the device from the dean of students and get talked to of why you need to return it so that other people can use it the next day. And then middle school students have used it way more than high school students. We don't know exactly why. If it's middle school students, they don't have cell phones. So like if they don't have a device, then they need one or what. But again, what we found is middle school students used it way more. So here's what it actually looks like in our district. I put it going to the library through these gray doors is our library. And so we have a camera right here. It's easy to see who did what. So that's why I put it there, just because we have the camera with easy identification right there. But this is what it looks like here. You can see our Chromebook. It opens right up to the Google form. You could have it opening up to your ticketing system if you wanted. And then I have the YouTube video on another tab that will open if they need to know how to use it. There's some documentation here. And then we've also added later in the year some more pictures up here of different statuses, just to try to make it as easy to use as possible. And you can make this look as nice as you want. This is just what we had. I put it together quickly. And so I think now I'm going to turn it over to Savannah to show you the video that I created, how to use it.
This video is going to show you how to use the Chromebook Locker to exchange your Chromebook for a spare. First thing you're going to do is fill out the Google form. That's going to tell me whether your battery's dead, you need to charge, or I need to come and take it for repair. Next thing you're going to do after filling out the Google form is go up to the locker itself, and you'll see there's different status lights. No light means that the Chromebook is gone and that bay is offline and I need to do something with it. White light means that that Chromebook is reserved for somebody, so somebody is either charging in that bay or they've taken that Chromebook already. Green light means that bay is available. So you're going to go up to the keypad, you're going to select your bay and hit OK. And it will now ask for your PIN number. That is your student ID. So you're going to enter your student ID. and then you're gonna hit OK. Stand back a couple of feet because the door is gonna just pop open. From there, you're gonna take the spare Chromebook, and if you need to charge your battery, you plug it in at that point. If you forgot yours at home, you can just close the door, it'll go offline. And once I have verified that you're either just charging or I need to go and grab your Chromebook for repair, or you have this one for the day, I will put it back online. It'll turn white and you go back to that same bay at the end of the day or the end of the class period when your Chromebook is charged. And once it's white, you're the only person who can access that bay again. Enter the bay number, enter your student ID again, it'll pop open and you can take your Chromebook back.
Atera is the IT painkiller. Remote monitoring and management.
And then I see there is a question. I'm not positive. I don't send anything out. I know support has been really good. They have some people that I've emailed for support that they always get back very quickly. That would be able to maybe answer that if Josh doesn't know as well.
All right. So yeah, let me just take a look at here at the chat here. Oh, we're talking about the server.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we don't currently have the feature of exporting those logs into other, other services yet. So, but we have started to see those requests coming in as people are starting to use reporting, and they want to have like a centralized way to view those logs. But right now, we don't currently have a way to do that.
Great. Any other questions for Brad or for Josh? We have one here in the chat from Chris. It says in the video.
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead, Brad.
sorry. Yeah. So it
Yep.
says, are you constantly monitoring / checking? I'm not. And so that's why that part is old. That's where I was saying that I stopped taking them offline, because if they are just charging or if they forgot it, I don't care. I only care about if their device is damaged. So I did end up like keeping that camera view open on another monitor. And so if I happened to see someone struggling, I would go help them with it. But like I'm not constantly monitoring it at all. And like when I'm gone, so if I have a teacher who helps me with some stuff over the summer, so I just add her into the notification email, and she'll go and do the swaps for me if I'm gone. So then, yeah, it's not something I'm actively monitoring anymore. I can verify that the spares are returned because the bays go online, and then I just walk up to it at the end of the day and make sure it's actually there. But usually it's never been an issue for me, but if it's not returned, someone will open it and then they'll see that there's not a device there, and I'll get an email, and then I just backtrack to the last person who had it and we figure it out from there. But for us, it hasn't been an issue to verify the spares are or not returned. But again, we have the camera right there to see exactly what they did, so that we can find that out very easily.
I'll address the question around a way to import your students. So yeah, we have a couple different ways that we handle that. One, you could actually go ahead and import those from your whatever directory systems you guys are using. But the most common way that we see districts doing this is that we can integrate within whatever, like if you're using Active Directory or Google directories, it makes it a lot easier because then you don't have to manage another database. Because what the Locker and the cloud software is doing is just going out and looking to see that this person is a verified user. Brett, I'm not sure how you guys manage your student directory, but I see more people not necessarily importing, but rather integrating with the directory systems that the districts are using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now we just used a CSV because it was easy and we had it available. But yeah.
Another question.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
and
go
so
ahead,
to
Brad.
address the let's see here, can the lock and charge show voltage draw or USB port? I'm not positive on that. I know there's an additional switch you can add into it for network monitoring. Josh, you might be able to talk about that a little bit more too.
Yeah, currently we don't have a way to see if there's a draw coming from the locker. For those that are really needing to have an understanding as far as what's inside each bay, there is an optional network switch. That network switch basically attaches to the locker, and it provides Ethernet ports into each bay. And then from there, obviously, you got different connectors connecting to the devices. We don't provide the switch though. So that would be whatever manufacturer brand that you guys would be going with. That would then, when the device is then connected and connected to that port, you would see, whatever communications that you're looking to get from that. But just having it plugged in, there is no indication of a power draw from either the outlet or the USB port.
And we have a note here from Chris about, and I think we've heard this before, Josh, a recommendation to put cameras on the locker, on the front of the locker to see, kind of
Yes.
monitor.
We have gotten that quite a bit. It's definitely in the ideas box. And, again, we've seen a number of different districts sort of coming up with their ways of monitoring. I mean, I think, Brad, what you did is the most common, is that the locker is placed where there's already a security camera that's monitoring that area. I have seen people put securing webcams on top of the lockers as well, because one thing you notice with what Brad was going through is the reporting. You notice that every action that there is that the locker is capturing, there's a timestamp. So then people are going back and referencing, their security footage on that exact date and time, should they need to go back for that.
Any other questions? And we have a shout out here to Brad. Thank you for sharing your story and lessons learned. It's great to hear a history of continual improvements, and kudos to you and your school for continuing to improve support for your students and staff. So
thank you.
Yeah, great job, Brad.
If there's anyone on this webinar that is in the Wisconsin or in the Wisconsin area, just an early sort of announcement, we're going to be doing an open house where people can come to the Madison office, check out some of the different solutions that we have, talk with us and the rest of our teammates. Obviously we'll be showcasing the fuel locker here as well. So if you're in here and you're a drive away from Madison, feel free to come out. We'll make an announcement to that as well, but feel free to reach out to myself or the Lock and Charge team, and we can give you the rest of those details. Hopefully you'll be here, Brad. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah, and I just posted Josh's contact information in the chat too, so everyone has it. And yeah, feel free to reach out directly to Josh or myself with any other questions. And thank you to Brad again for presenting, and thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brad.
Yep. See you guys.